Hello everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. Today I'm talking about The Exorcism, directed by Joshua John Miller. Tagline is, a troubled actor begins to exhibit a disruptive behaviour while shooting a horror film. His estranged daughter wonders if he's slipping back into his past addictions, or if there's something more sinister at play. Welcome folks. I'm probably going to get bad for this one as well, because we're dealing with some heavy issues in this movie. So this one popped up randomly. This is part of the catch-up list. I thought we'd have a look at it. And then I remembered I still have to look at The Pope's Exorcist, which is another Russell Crowe movie. But anyway, this was decent. I have to say, it's a good watch. It's a gritty drama with a supernatural bent. And it played out quite well. So to start off, we've got this movie set. I'm of an actor, well, we think he's a scriptwriter or something. He's walking through a house and he's reading from a script and he's, reading it out verbatim, creaky noise here, this, that, and the other bit. And then we see something nefarious happen. And that sort of sets up the scene that this is not the character that we meet later. Because there is a bit of a sort of misdirection. Is this guy falling into addiction, whatever else? But with the opening scene, we know that it's supernatural, sinister. So that's actually quite good, because if they hadn't have included that opening scene, this would have been a painful watch of, oh God, it's one of these movies trying to be artsy-fartsy and misdirecting and you don't know where it's going. So I'm glad they did that, because it helps you get a bit of a grounding and also understanding the pretext. Because here's what they do exorcism movies well. There's absolutely tons of them. We're bored with troubled priest loses faith, encounters demon, finds faith again right at the last second. Like, that has been done to death. Even The Exorcist, but let's be honest, it's the first of its genre, and it spawned, God, look up exorcism movies. There are tons of them. It's a whole genre in itself, the same as nunsploitation. I mean, it's a whole category of movies, and even that falls into, you've got exorcist comedy movies, exorcist drama, exorcist supernatural, you've blah 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 blah. So this type of movie has been done a million times, so it's difficult to find one that is going to break the mold or offer you something different. So where do they go? I believe this movie does it very well. Like, let's be honest, the minute you go in, oh, it's an exorcist movie, okay, this is what we're going to see, and you kind of know the beats. So the fact that they're starting off that it's a guy on set of an exorcist type movie, it's good. So we're getting a new angle. I don't know if they've done this before. Maybe they have. Like I said, you couldn't even keep up with them. So maybe they have. Fair enough. But I like the premise. So it's a movie set. It's an exorcism type movie, but an actor basically gets wiped out. So then we meet our main character, Anthony Miller. And that's obviously played by Russell Crowe, the main character in this. So within like the first 10 minutes, we'll get the idea. His daughter, Lee, comes into the house. She's got a suitcase. So we know she's been somewhere and coming back. She goes to the house. He's reading his lines. We can hear it from the corridor. So we know he's rehearsing for a part. We find out that she's been kicked out of school. We've got your generic angry teenager, if that makes sense. Like, to be honest, she doesn't play anything that we haven't seen before, and especially with modern sort of young women today, all angsty, blah, 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 So, thankfully, we don't rely on her character. She's a point of view character that's basically going along her father's journey, and of course, she's like Tony and doesn't call him dad, and so it's all spelt out that there's tension in the family. Turns out his wife, her mother, died of cancer, and he basically became an alcoholic. if he wasn't already. He basically fell down the rabbit hole of addiction, and he wasn't there for the last bit, so it wasn't even after she died. It was during the final stages, and yeah, he basically ended up in the worst place possible, and he's a recovering addict, and this is basically his first job in about 5 years or something. So he's an actor, he's well known, and like I said, just fell off the wagon, hit the rock, so to speak, and then this is sort of his redemption arc to come back and do something. So, but he knows it's based off tragedy because of what happened to the previous actor in this movie, if that makes sense. So all that's at play. We know that he's an RC because he's in confession, and it's been 40 years since his last one. And he's talking about, the fact that this comes off tragedy, that what happened to the previous actor, but he thinks there's a good chance and all that kind of stuff. So that's fair enough. It's a nice setup. And the movie doesn't spend too much time on it. So I like that. Do you know why movies have a tendency to, ache every bit out? And it's excruciating how long the story takes to reveal itself. Like, in another worse done movie, it would have been halfway through it before we discovered that his wife died of cancer, what was eaten at the mother, father and daughter. And that, that would take half the movie, but to get it all done. So the play's set, so to speak, for what's going to happen next. This is where an exorcism movie's good, where it can do it well, is we need to know how the demon gets in. The demons don't, in these sort of movies, they don't come in to healthy, wholesome people. There's a darkness, there's something there. It's a tragedy. It's a way to basically finds a chink in the armor so it can get in. So Anthony Miller, in this case, he's ripe for picking. You just know he's ready, and you kind of know what's going to happen to him when he comes into this movie set. So we don't really need to know what happened to the previous actor, why the demon just killed him outright, because that's not really the story. Obviously, he wasn't going to be a good host or whatever else. That's fine. But then we say within, dude, he does the audition. The director sort of knows or doesn't, he's on the fence about whether to hire him or not. They have a chat about it. And he obviously goes to the movie, because if he didn't, the rest of the plot wouldn't happen. I mean, if he didn't get the job, none of the rest of the movie would take place. So we kind of know he's getting the job anyway. But it's within like the first day or two of shooting that we see Tony just starts to fall off the rails. Now, it's put down to, the doctor's changed his medication, blah, blah, blah. The stress of it, all this kind of stuff. And this is where I'm saying the opening scene helps. Because if this had been is it, isn't it, it would have been so trite and difficult to watch, because you'd just be like, oh, come on. Would you tell us one way or the other? And we've seen these type of movies loads of times as well, and it's very cliche. So the fact that we know he's been possessed from the minute, but it's the rest of the cast, the actors trying to figure out what's going on, and then they're writing it off as the addiction, and not being able to handle fame again, or the pressures of the job and all that kind of stuff. And the guy that plays the director in this could have been a joke. He looks like your typical joke of a director, cliche. But at the same time, because he dials back the performance of it, and the only times he flies off the handles when things go wrong, so he's not a diva. They could have easily had that character go into the sort of diva character, but he wasn't. He just wants to make a movie. The only thing that pissed me off during this was when he's like, does this look like an actor who's a horror actor? Once again, this, blatantly out there, thumbing down their nose at the horror genre. But that might be a joke within a joke of this movie being self-aware. Yes, we're doing an exorcism movie. Yes, it's a horror movie. Yes, we know you're going to go, and it brings a level of self-awareness to it that you if you're a horror fan, you get the joke of, yeah, we know we get looked down on by the rest of filmmakers and art society, whatever else. Oh, you're a horror creator. You know, all that kind of stuff. So I got the joke and I laughed. I'm like, yeah, good. This movie gets it. So with that being said, the actual playthrough of, like, let's be honest, Russell Crowe just owns this. He's really good in the scene or the part. He really does degrade himself in this and shows somebody falling to pieces. And at first, the wee girl that plays the daughter, we'll see the transformation from snarky character to, you know, the trauma coming out. And an interesting one to bring in is Father Connor. So essentially, they have him on as an advisor. Now, I don't know if he was on as an advisor from the beginning of the movie or after the first actor loses his life. But he's sort of the grounding character, if that makes sense. So he's a psychologist who found faith, and he plays a bit of reverse psychology with the characters. So he's almost like, well, if you believe, you believe. If you don't, you don't. That's up to you. And I'm here to make sure it's not too hokey or the right words are said, you know. And it's a sort of clever character because he's sort of being blasé about it, but he's not, because he understands the Gwyn holy roller type would be met with rejection in today's, which is, you know, completely understandable. He kind of has a good insight into Tony's character. He knows something's went on there. And as we find out later in the movie, because of something happened in Tony's childhood, now, it's not spelled out 100% exactly played scene for scene, but it's abuse. It's, you know, what the Roman Catholic Church is famous for when it comes to little young boys. They seem to like that sort of thing. So that's kind of played out here. We don't know, it's hinted at that it might be his own father, but I don't know if that was just a play and things. But basically, it comes out he was an altar boy for 2 years, and then he completely lost his faith after that. And then, you know, and it's down to an incident. So that is in the background, and then that explains once again why Tony's character is a prime candidate for a demon, and the demon's Moloch in this case. That was a good movie, by the way. I think it was one of my first reviews. I decided to do live reviews. Moloch. It's good. Moloch's a pagan god that it's sort of vengeance and anger is what it thrives on. A sort of Scandinavian god. Comes from Scandinavian origin, so good one to play in. But yeah, the whole playthrough this, the Tony's character, because he is the point of view character. You know, he's the main character. He's the one everything's centered around, and it's his sort of journey and battle, and it all sort of, you know, ramps up as it should in an Exorcist movie. So there's nothing surprising there, if that makes sense. It plays through as it should, and even the final battle, because when Blake, the actress, is playing the possessed girl in the movie, is showing Lee around. She shows her to the cold room, which, you know, there's a joke made about it being a remake, if that makes sense. So we know what movie it's, you know, it's technically a remake of The Exorcist they're doing, even the room with the ice and stuff. So they've got a separate set for the sort of ice and that sort of thing. So it's almost telegraphed that this is where the final scene of the movie is going to play out. And sure enough, it does. There's an absolutely fantastic scene in this where Tony's meant to be playing the part where he's casting out the demon in the bed, you know, and she's doing the fuck you priest, and he's trying to say his lines, but he can't do it. But this is where he just basically walks off set, stops, and then reveals himself to be possessed by a demon. But of course, the cast can't really wrap their head around it. It was done well. The special effects were done well, and yeah, actually, the special effects in this, we'll have to talk about those. They're understated. There's actually quite a few complex effects played in this movie, but it's so subtle and understated because this movie's focusing on the human interaction and trauma and drama that is not relying on special effects to make the movie. It's relying on atmosphere. And the special effects in this, when they're played out, are just the icing on the cake. But they're high quality special effects. They're not messing about. So with that, obviously I'm trying not to spoil this movie if you haven't noticed, because it's actually a good one and you should watch it. But there's times in these sort of exorcism movies where they rely on the special effects and the demon special effects to hide away from a bad, boring, lazy script. Where this does it the other way, it's actually got a decent, compelling script, and it plays with the stereotypes that you would find in sort of movies in Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't become a parody of itself. It just sort of plays at those type of characters, but at the same time, there's an underpinning intelligence to this, which I was actually quite surprised by. So it's a good drama. It's a good telling of dealing with trauma. It just happens to have a big, great demon in the middle of it, you know, causing absolute carnage, which demons does. And even when Moloch does, like, there's quite a few deaths in this movie as well, and they're done well, but they're not the main focus of this story. They're just almost an afterthought. So everything plays out. We get the final confrontation, as we do. It resolves itself in the way it does. But like I said, I'm not going to spoil it. There's a few twists and turns, but like I said, if you've seen one of these, you've seen any of these movies, you know kind of how it's going. So you're not going to be drastically surprised. So I'm not going to say this is reinventing the genre or anything. It's not. It's just a well-told story. And this is the point I've made about any sort of movie or book or storytelling. Yes, you're not going to get 100% authentic, original, one of a kind. Like, that's impossible. There's certain number of ideas. What is it? There's like 7 stories in the whole world, and it's just sort of tweaking and retelling them. That's not what you do here. You make interesting characters and you put them on an interesting journey. And you just don't do it beat for beat like every other similar telling. You can make a few tweaks, but what you don't do is unravel the ethos of the story you're trying to tell. So when you made an exorcism movie, there's certain beats you have to go by. That's fine. That's your foundation, if that makes sense. What you build on top of that is completely different. So you build an interesting story, you build interesting interactions, you have interesting special effects, which this movie does. You don't overplay certain things, and you end up with a good product. So, all in all, yeah, I was pleased with. Good movie, good cast of actors. Flipping Sam Worthington's in this. He's playing a secondary character, but I have not seen him in a movie in absolutely ages. He's all right. You know, he played his character, but he wasn't being, you know, he was sort of background character, if that makes sense. Didn't really do too much, but fair enough. Next up, Tony. My next favorite character would be Father Connor in this. He just has that sort of, he's the sounding board. He explains the plot. He sort of goes along, and people come to him at certain points when they need a bit of the exposition. He's the exposition man, basically. And then he plays his part at the end of it. But cool. He played a good character. He was interesting in himself. You kind of wanted to know more about him. You know, one of those characters that he's not telegraphing his entire life. You know, people like, oh, here's my entire life. I'm a slave here. You must know everything about me. He's somebody that has a story to tell, and you're sort of intrigued to hear it, but you don't need to hear it because his character's done well. So there you go. Fair play that. Anyway, that's my review. Hopefully YouTube doesn't ban this one for random reasons. You silly bastards. Flip. Still annoyed me that. Check out the community post anyway. But there you go. Let me know what you think if you watched this. And until next time, keep up the channel, do the typey clicky things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.